We're going to start the tour outside, actually out at the back of the site, with just a brief history of the site, and then we're going to head up to the top floor and just take a little bit of a look at the modern use of the building, and then we'll finish the tour in the museum, and you can look around there at your own free will, and then up to yourself how long you want to spend there or how eager you are to get out and take photographs out and about. So if you just want to follow me. The earliest traces that we have of textile related industries here on the site date back to the early 1700s. Originally a bleaching establishment and then later a flax stitching establishment. By the 1790s there was a cotton printing works here on the site, and that was based in the building behind us. That's the oldest building on the site today, so that dates then from the 1790s. And at the time, it was known as the Carmoney Cotton Printing Works. The name Mossley not yet in existence, Carmoney being the greater sort of townland name. So that was in the 1790s. In 1821, then, the Grimshaw family took over the site. Nicholas Grimshaw was an Englishman who had came to Ulster in the late 1700s. And he had established himself at Whitehouse, at the mill there, and had gained a wide reputation in the cotton manufacturing industry. He bought over the site, and it was his two sons, Thomas and Edmund Grimshaw, who were here running the site. And it's under the Grimshaws that we begin to see the early stages of development on the site. They built additional buildings, in addition to the one behind me. They started to build two buildings in roughly the location where these two are today. Not these buildings, but in roughly the same sort of location. They also converted from the cotton manufacturing to flax spinning. They could see that that's where the future lay at the time. It was also then the Grimshaw family that brought the name Mossley to the site. Believed to have come from Mossley in Lancashire in England, where they still had family connections. So they named the site Mossley. Initially, before naming the site, they named the house which they had built for initially the owners and then later the managers. They named it Mossley House. And it has really only been since the opening of the theatre and the museum and really developments within the second phase that the site has really fully opened up to the public. And as council staff, every day we just see constant streams of public in on the site, which is fantastic. We'll head back in here and we'll head up to the top level. I recommend the lift. You can take the stairs if you want. If it's the stairs, you're right up to the very top. And we can also see a couple of the original features. Of course, the chimney. The first mention that we hear of the chimney is in the 1839 Ordnance Survey memoirs. And it was described then as being 72 feet tall. It was later raised to 158 feet and then lowered again to 148 feet for health and safety. So it stands today at 148 feet tall. And really just a key landmarker of the site. Certainly when we're giving people directions, you know, it's once you see the chimney, just follow it and you'll get there. Pictures on the walls here are not actually councillors, they're the free men and women of the borough. This man here, being the most recent freeman, his name's Norman Dunn, and he was our old chief executive. He retired just about a year or so ago. Somebody asked me who had the vision of turning this place. Yeah. I'm sure there are councillors who would say each like to claim that they had, but I guess probably it does come down to this man. So we'll head on down. You can see the various rooms and we'll head into them. Give it a history there. This will take a few minutes. As I mentioned upstairs, it is based in what was originally the wet spinning room. So this was the wet spinning floor. Originally, of course, then filled with water. In the early days, the ladies would have been working here in their bare feet. In later years, they did have specially designed clogs to help them out. The frame behind you is a wet spinning frame. It's not from the site here. Whenever the council took over, really most of the machinery and equipment here was already gone. If it wasn't gone, it had been destroyed and wasn't really in any condition to be salvaged. In developing the museum, they were very keen that it was a wet spinning frame. As I said, that was the main production here. This being the wet spinning floor, it really was appropriate that they got a wet spinning frame. So that one was brought in from Herdman's in Zion Mills. Nice, of course, they did own here for a time, so there is that little link. It wasn't just brought in from a strange mill, it did have that link. The projection that is playing behind the frame then is a combination of 3 different films. 2 of them which were taken at other mills in Ulster, and 1 of them which was taken here in Mossley in the 1970s. It was an old VHS tape, very, very poor quality, but we were able to salvage it as best we could. So that then is linked in with the other 2, and that runs on a continual loop. One of our main concerns was that, you know, the workers who had worked here, who were still alive, weren't going to like it. They were going to find it too modern and just too unlike what was here. But generally it has been very, very well received. In terms of photographs within the museum, as long as they're for private use and just use among yourselves, that's no problem at all. You can work away.
Had 2 accidents and changing the gearing on the spinning frame. One occurred, the mechanics changing the gearing and they pushed the handle to put it onto a loose pulley. There was a loose pulley and a fixed pulley. Well, what happened was the belt worked its way onto the fixed pulley and the mechanic had his arm in through the gearing and he lost the arm by the elbow. And it happened on 2 occasions. The first one was James Burns, and the second was Neville Miller.
Well, we were doing spinning at the time, and the mill seemed to, there was a bang, and the mill seemed to turn around, and then they all started shouting, and they said there was an explosion. And we all had to get out outside whenever we heard the 2 men died. Well, it upset people, very much so, so it did. So you were to put in the next day and you were worried in case it happened again. That's the only accident I ever remember.
Okay. You're very welcome. Very welcome.
On behalf of the club, Lara, thank you very much. That was a very instructive tour. I asked you if we could get a copy of what you had said in print, perhaps, but we can't at this stage.
I can get you the old version.
Well, that might be helpful.
Might be.
I mean, definitely some of us are interested in the historical background and the names you mentioned, Campbell, Barbara Campbell, and so on. We have some interest in. So if you could give us something in that, it would be good. But thank you very much.
You're most welcome. It's been a
well worth
pleasure.